Welcome to the second episode of the Cardinals UK YouTube channel with me and Mark, doing our best to promote MLB and especially the St. Louis Cardinals. How you been, Mark? All right, mate?
Yeah, all good. Thanks, Dave. And nice that we've got actual baseball to talk about tonight as well.
Well, that's a debatable subject as well at the moment, but that's enough. We're trying to sort of like promote the sport, and obviously we're trying to promote the Cardinals, as I said. But over the last few years, the MLB community has made us a lot of friends actually, and one of mine's been Michael, just outside Birmingham, if I'm right, aren't I, mate?
Just outside, you can probably tell from my accent. Yeah.
um, Look, people don't want to hear me all night. Michael, do you want to sort of describe how we became sort of like online MLB UK buddies, really?
Yeah, of course, of course. So, no, thanks for having me on both.
No worries, mate.
Yeah, I think it kind of started. I mean, I've been with the MLB community now for almost 7 years. And it was kind of plodding along and doing well and growing, and then dreaded COVID hit, and everyone kind of stopped for God knows how long. It felt like an eternity. And obviously, we were kind of speaking, Dave. It's always good. Rivalry aside, it's always good to meet other UK baseball fans. There's not many of us. We're certainly growing, but there's not many of us still when you compare it to the likes of NFL, etc. So yeah, so it was during COVID. I think everyone was getting a bit bored. Everyone was, yeah, getting a bit sick and tired of being inside. So I noticed that you'd done a hot wing challenge on Twitter, and posted the clips of these Carolina Reaper chicken wings
Yes.
and I love spice. Like spice for me, yeah, it can make a meal. So I was straight into the replies, Dave, asking you where you got them. You told me from Iceland, other
That's right. Yeah, it
supermarkets are
was. Yeah.
available. Yeah, and yeah, I think next day, or if it wasn't the next day, it was the day after. Went out, got myself some, and I'm sure if you guys remember that COVID kind of spring summer was really warm.
Yeah, it
Like
Yes.
was. Yeah,
it was so frustrating because the weather was so good, yet we couldn't do anything.
yeah.
Um, and I remember one day, me and the good wife were having a barbecue, and I was like, "Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna put on." So I put on the wings and replied back to Mark. Sorry, Mark. I'm just because I can see you on the screen, Mark. Apologies, Dave. Sorry, Dave. And so it kind of went from there. I kind of replied, and I suppose, you know, yes, there was the rivalry, but we kind of became, you know, good friends kind of after that, and we've kind of kept in touch ever since, and kind of it's grown from there. So I suppose that's kind of the background on kind of how we started out, Dave, as
Yeah.
friends, really.
Yeah, it's nice, and the MLB's got a lot to answer for really when it comes to bringing people around the country, sort of like for the common cause. And like you said, NFL massive over here, MLB not so big, but you know what, the stadiums were full in London, so um, it's been great, and I do like the local rivalry. And I think as we discussed before, unlike soccer where you have real rivalry over here with your Liverpools and your Evertons and Man United and Man City, we don't actually necessarily feel that from the American side of things with the rivalry. I've been to Chicago a couple of times now, once as a kid and once recently with my boy, and I love the city. I absolutely love it. It's probably one of my most favourite places. And and to be honest with you, if I wasn't into baseball before, obviously I think the Cubs or maybe the Sox would have caught my attention a little bit. But when I started watching MLB, I never sort of like felt anything for them, if you know what I mean. And I fell in love with the Cardinals. So um, I'll fire away with the first question before Mark gets his teeth into you. Come on then, mate. So out of the 30 MLB teams, I'm going to be careful how I word this. How did you decide to pick the Cubs as the team to follow, mate?
Yeah, so it actually started 2017, so I was kind of just after the crest of the wave of the 2016 World Series win. So myself and my wife, we went to Mexico April 2017 for a couple of weeks, um, and Mexico very much. I'm not sure if either of you has been, but very much caters towards that American market. So in the hotel that we were in, that had like a sports bar. I'll say it was a bar that had like a lot of sport on, rather than a conventional sports bar you kind of get over here in the UK. And I'm massively into cricket. Cricket is probably one of my favourite sports. So I've kind of always knew about baseball, but I've never really watched it. And so during the evenings when you were drinking at the bar, that was like 9, 10 o'clock. That was prime baseball time, really, for over in kind of Mexico, America kind of side. And I remember kind of having an interest, and then one of the nights it was actually when the Chicago Cubs got their World Series rings from the 2016 World Series win,
Oh, okay.
and this bar was, as I say, packed. There was probably a dozen, 20 Cubs fans in there, all watching their team after 108 years finally get this World Series ring. And so I got chatting to them. I'm quite an approachable guy, and just kind of watched it from there. I think they played the Dodgers that day. I think, don't quote me on that. And I was watching it with all these Cubs fans and just thinking, actually, this is a hell of a sport. Obviously, the adrenaline and everything was kind of running high because of what had happened kind of before the game. Um, but I thought at that point, I was like, yeah, like this, baseball seemed great, and this Cubs team seems incredible. And then the next night, I watched another game. I think it was the Mets played. So four was on the mound. That's how I knew it was the Mets. Um, and I remember watching it, still really enjoying it, but I don't know. I kind of got that feeling that it was the Cubs who I was meant to support. And from there on, then it's just been an absolute whirlwind from me coming back here, creating the page, which now has over 3,500 followers. Getting to speak to
Yeah,
people
brilliant.
from the US, from the UK, and it's just grown from there now. And like I said, it was kind of after the Lord Mayor show when I kind of started to follow them, because they've made a couple of postseasons, but they haven't really done much since.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story, and yeah, that's
No,
how I
that's
got
a
into
great. That's a
following the team.
great story, and I know that's a brilliant story. And I know Mexico's got a massive baseball community.
Mhm.
If you can see over my shoulder there, Mark knows my work friend Pedro. Him and his wife Celia went over to Mexico, and they went to. He goes off track a little bit, Pedro, and I can't remember the name of the city, but that's the baseball team's cap something something Lions, Yukon Lions or something, and
Okay.
yeah, and I can see how sort of like Mexico did sort of like show the television. It's brilliant. Mark, do you want to fire away with anything to Michael?
Yeah, I was going to go on to really talk about sort of how the off season's gone for you guys. Really, I mean, you got close to making the wild card. Was it one game out from the wild card? You ended up last season. Must have been a pretty painful last week of the season, because you went on a really good run, didn't you? And then sort of just tailed off a little bit at the end.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks we almost imploded.
Yeah,
Um, we were, I don't want to say within touching distance, but we were within a very gettable distance of the Brewers,
yeah,
and they ended up winning by, I think it was 9 games in the end, at the NL Central. We just completely tailed off, which was, yeah, it was painful to watch. I mean, would I have? We would. Am I a realist? Yes. Do I think we'd have got kind of anywhere near, the NLDS or the World Series, or no? But it would have been nice, as you guys know, to have postseason baseball.
yeah. And you never know, once you're in it, you never know, do you?
Well, look at the Diamondbacks. I mean, no one gave them a
Yeah, yeah,
chance, and they made it all the way to the World Series. So, yeah, anything can happen over a course of 7 games. Um,
absolutely, yeah,
but it's like playing the lottery. You've got to be in it to win it, and unfortunately, we
Yeah.
weren't in it last year.
yeah.
See,
Whereas
see,
our season
last
was over by about July, wasn't it? So
yeah. Well, I was about to say actually, we peaked at spring training last season, and it all went downhill after that, really, didn't
we're
it?
definitely not doing the same this year, thank goodness. So yeah,
Oh,
we'll
I
see
hope
how
not.
that
I
goes. Yeah,
hope not. I'll tell you what, I do keep an eye out for the rivals in the Central. Michael, you've been signing some big name players like Suzuki and Swanson. Well, what's the vibe with the Cubs community about what they're doing to, get you into, getting a much improved season from last year? What are they doing the right things out there at Wrigley?
Y- 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 If you'd have asked me a
You're
couple of weeks
hesitating.
ago,
Yeah.
it would have been a completely different answer.
Yes.
Obviously, re-signing Cody Bellinger for 3 years, that would have been a massive deficit on what we had last year when he was
Yeah,
playing for us. I think the consensus around kind of Cubs fans is, yeah, we've done okay. We would have maybe liked a bit more. We've signed Imananga from Japan, who looks
yeah,
like a very good pitcher. But on the other side of the coin, we've also lost Stroman, who's gone to the Yankees.
Yes. Yes.
Now, it depends what Stroman the Yankees get. We had him the first half of last year. He was incredible. He got injured during the London series, which you probably know.
yeah.
And
It was
then,
on that Sunday game, wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah, and then the second
Mm.
half, he was injured for the majority. And then when he came back, he just didn't look the same player. So I think there's a sort of sense of kind of optimism that, but I think our optimism comes from, yes, I'd say we've improved slightly, but also the likes of the Brewers, and we'll probably come on to this a bit later. The Brewers have in my view, kind of downgraded a lot.
mm,
Obviously, they've lost Corby, and Woodruff's out for this year with that
yeah,
shoulder injury, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I think that winning team, the team that have won the NL Central the most in the last few years, almost looks a little bit weak. And I think that opens the door for the likes of us and for yourselves to kind of go, actually, yeah, we can probably make postseason this year.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Bellinger's been a massive one, isn't it? It's been, I think, Cubs Twitter the whole of the off season has just been sort of waiting for that signing, and then the sort of the big celebration last week when it finally happened, in the sigh of relief from you guys, I suppose, when we finally got it over the line.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a strange one because we had him last year, so it's almost not as if like we've signed Cody Bellinger and we've now got this massive input that we didn't have last year, because we did have it. I think it was more the fear of where we're going to find all those home runs from, where we're going to find all of those second and third base hits from, because he was incredible for us last year, and I don't think we'd be really struggling without him this year if he hits like he did last year, which is always a big if.
Yeah,
yeah. You know, watching the Cubs and the fan base, especially at the London stadium, they're a massive. You're a massive organisation, and I think, if the Cubs and the Cardinals are doing well, it's going to be a good season for all of us, really, because the fan bases are definitely there.
And I think
One thing,
that's sorry, no, I think that let's face it, that's the biggest rivalry. We don't like, obviously, the White Sox. We don't like the Brewers, but it's always Cubs cards, and
yes,
obviously
yeah,
that's why that came over last year.
mm,
Because it's Cubs cards. So if we can have that rivalry where when you're getting towards the end of the season, where every game actually means something,
yes, it'd be
then
fantastic, wouldn't it?
it will
yeah,
be. It will be.
Yeah, and I think as an organisation, the Cardinals need that. When you read the Twitter, which me and Mark obviously we're on it every day, really. It is about the front office. They seem to be holding on to their wallets a little bit, and I think Sonny Gray's contract's quite decent. It's like 70 plus million, and before he got
before he's got injured.
fined. Oh, I know. Yeah, before he got in. So
Yeah,
they do put their hand in their pocket, but I'm just not quite sure that the fan base are happy the way the front office are operating at the moment. What do you think, Mark? Or have I? Well, I don't know.
yeah.
What do we
Well, I
need
think
to
it's
be
come out
doing?
today, isn't it? I think we're 22 million below the threshold for the first. I don't quite understand how this all works, but for the first sort of threshold of spending, we're 22 million below. So we haven't got the funds left to sign Montgomery or Snell or whatever. I think the dreams of that are probably over for this year now. So I think the rotation that
Oh,
we've got will have to be what we have. For right or wrong, we've got sort of a few older guys. Sonny Gray's already injured. Matsu's always injured. Um, Michael has had a down year last year, needs to bounce back this year. So the rotation is very much as we were looking at it last year. We're just a couple of injuries away from potential disaster with that sort of rotation, and having to bring guys like Thompson through, Liberator through. But they just haven't spent the money on that area, on maybe the marquee signings that we were hoping that they would do. What we've ended up instead is Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn, which wasn't exactly the dream scenario for us.
Exactly, and Sonny Gray's. I mean, again, and this is from the outside, kind of looking in. I would probably say he's your best pitcher.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
100%, yeah.
need him. I mean, I haven't heard that he's moved on to the IL. Is it a kind of serious
No, it's
problem?
no, it's just a minor calf strain.
Okay.
So from what we gathered today, I think he's struggling maybe to make the opening day start.
Okay.
But it's not an injury that's going to keep him out long term. So, but likewise, having your main starter going into a season with any kind of injury isn't ideal at the end of the day, is
No,
it?
of
No, it's
course.
not. Absolutely not. And and a lot of people are quite excited to get an opportunity. I don't think I can. I tried to watch it, but we seem to be getting a lot of audio coverage from
Yeah, it
the
was
MLB.
audio again tonight. Yeah, so we missed our first
So
home
it's a
run
bit.
of the season tonight, Dave. So
Yeah, I missed it. Yeah, I've got over. I've got the Phillies are on the telly over there at the moment, but
yeah,
scoring. I don't know how's your spring training going, Michael, at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we 5-5, I think. Spring training's always difficult, isn't it? Because it's a lot of in some cases high A, double A, and then your kind of your triple A people playing, and then even your regular starters that are playing. They're working on stuff to see how it's going to work in the main season. So sometimes you'll watch a starting pitcher and they might go for 3-4 off a couple of innings, but it's because they may be trying to tweak their change up. They're trying to, and that's the perfect time to kind of do it. It's like football over here. When you watch a preseason friendly, if my team went, I don't know, away to Kidderminster and drew 1-1, I wouldn't kind of go, oh, what's the season going to hold for us? I know you're just trying to kind of work stuff out. So yeah, it's going kind of okay, but for me, spring training's always with a little bit of probably same with yourselves, always with a bit of a pinch of salt. It's just
yeah,
making sure your main guys don't get injured too severely, so that when opening day comes, that you're having a full strength team.
yeah. And like you
Oh,
said, Dave,
100%.
spring went really, really well for us last year, and the season was absolutely shocking. So,
Yeah.
you can't read too much into a successful spring, really. So, hopefully, we'll have a reverse of that this year and have not too good a spring. But as you say, everybody come through unscathed.
Yeah.
Well,
Start the
that's
season strong.
that's right because obviously the season before last we had the WBC before, so some of the sort of like established players were still like they were quite hot, but gave them a little break, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, we were superb during the spring training. I thought I really had high hopes, but unfortunately it went all a bit horribly wrong, really. But it happens. Changing the subject slightly, Mike. I must admit, I was really impressed during the London series of what the Cubs did for their fan base. In particular, I can't remember the name of the pub, but they put a pub up for Cubs fans where they had ex-players, coaches, journalists turn up and meet the fans. Did you manage to visit any of that? Because I know you were in London for a bit.
Yeah. I mean, we were the Cubs were. So as Cubs fans, we were incredibly lucky during the London series because from the Cubs seem to have put on loads, and I'm not sure if the Cards did anything. I'm not sure. Like,
no,
no,
nothing.
no. Okay, so I went down on the Friday. I had there's just the one day off from work, but yeah, like you said, the Thursday they hired out that pub. They had old players. They had Pat Hughes. That they had like Cubs legends there, which would have been incredible to go to. Unfortunately, like I said, work wouldn't allow me to do that. And then the Friday I went to batting practice. We got tickets to go to watch batting practice, and then the Saturday, the Cubs put on an event just literally next door to the Olympic Stadium. I think, and I met kind of Fergie Jenkins. I met Tom Ricketts, so I met the Cubs owner.
Mm.
I met Jeremiah Papocki, who's the Cubs announcer. Everyone like it was like
Wow.
free food, free drink, everything. It was whatever you wanted, you could have got. So we
Yeah.
were incredibly kind of lucky. Even on the Sunday when they didn't have anything on, Cubs Twitter messaged and they gave me free Cubs hats. They gave me free Cubs merch that all said London series on it.
Wow.
That they really, really kind of went above and beyond last summer, and I can't fault them for that. And I'm kind of sad for yourselves as well that almost you didn't kind of get that on the Cardinal side, and I feel like they kind of missed a trick there because you seemed like you said, Mark, Dave. I keep calling you Mark. Dave, do you want us to go? And I'll just speak to Mark. Um, um, You said earlier, Dave, it was sold out both days. The weather was actually really nice for a
Yeah.
London weekend in June.
It was good if you were
And
thirsty.
yeah. And yeah, it just could have been so much more. And even the response we got from Chicago, yeah, I was on the radio, I was on the TV, I was doing
Mm.
podcasts, all in that week leading up to it. I was on 670 to score. There was so many, even on the Monday after, I was then on another radio show talking about the weekend. So Chicago kind of really bought into that weekend. And again, it was incredible. Yeah, we drew 1-1, but it was an incredible weekend. But yeah, I'm kind of a bit kind of sad and disappointed for yourselves that you never kind of got to see it from your side as well.
Yeah, it's all a bit strange, really, because obviously there was a few events on, but it wasn't organised by the Cardinals. It was sort of like Derek Gould, like the journalist. He done his thing, I think, which a few Cardinals fans went to. Um, I got contacted. I did get contacted by a journalist, and I appeared on the BBC Breakfast News for about
Oh yes, I remember. I
five
remember.
seconds. 5 seconds. My moment of fame, and I had my mate out on holiday in Turkey, and he saw me out there. He couldn't believe it. He goes, "I can't get away from you." And then, but apart from that, nothing really. It was all like people like me and Mark connecting.
Yeah, it was a shame.
Um,
Especially
it
because it was a
was,
Cardinals home series as well, So it's like when you go to
Exactly.
an NFL game, the home game, the home teams over in the UK, when the NFL teams come over, they make a big deal of them being the home team. They bring the
yes,
announcers over, they do the flags and everything else or whatever. Whereas the Cardinals, considering there was a home game for us, it certainly didn't feel like it, within the sort of stadium itself.
Yeah.
The fact that we were outnumbered massively by Cubs fans didn't help. But then also that there was nothing on to actually introduce us to anybody within the organization or any sort of events didn't help to build that sort of camaraderie amongst the fans as well either.
No,
Shame.
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. I do wonder, where our Cardinals promotion has sort of like escalated since the London series as well. I think if it was to happen, say next year, I'd like to think they'd probably reach out because obviously we're connecting with a lot more people now. But like I say, Mike, you've been going like 7 years now with your podcast in the years gone by and stuff like that, and we're not we're way behind you, but we're slowly creeping up on numbers and stuff like that. But no, thanks for talking about the experience. Before we get going, guys, I just want to talk to you about your. I suppose we've touched on it a little bit already. The hopes and expectations. We got the Brewers, we got the Pirates, and I quite like the Reds sometimes. So, how do you think? I'll go with you, Mark. You go first. How do you think the Cards are going to do this year, buddy? I know it's an open-ended question, but
Yeah, it's almost a how long is a piece of string question. Really. There's so many
yes,
questions about our sort of lineup. Well, the lineup is actually good. I mean, you can't wish for any more really in terms of our lineup. If you look at the central lineup, it's sort of with Goldschmidt, Arenado, Walker, Gorman, Nootbaar. We've got a really strong lineup there coming. Running through a strong core in terms of the batting side of it. But just like last year, the rotation is the massive question for us. The bullpen they've strengthened a little bit. But the pitchers they brought in are just to eat innings really, and apart from Sonny Gray, who's obviously there to be the star, but Gibson and Lynn are just there to make up the numbers in terms of innings. They're going to be sort of number 4, number 5 guys. Michael has had a down year last year. He needs to pick it up again this year. Mats is unknown whether he can stay fit for any longer than a month at a time. So we're only 1 or 2 injuries away from, like I said earlier, bringing a lot of young pitchers through, and then the rotation is in the same place as it was last year, and then it's difficult to win games when you haven't got a sort of competitive rotation. So yeah, who knows? I mean, if everybody stays healthy, we're in with a shout, and we're lucky the NL Central is quite weak compared to other divisions as well. That it's going to keep us competitive, hopefully, throughout the year as well.
yeah, that's good answer, mate. Mike, far away, mate. What's your hopes and dreams and aspirations for the Cubs this year, mate?
Honestly think we could make a real challenge of winning it this year in our Central. I think it will be between both of us, if I'm going to be honest. I think losing, like I said, Burns and Woodruff from the Brewers rotation is going to be a massive blow. And I'm sure I've read earlier that Lance Lynn has also gone on the IL, who was one of their rotation arms. As a Cubs fan, sorry, not Lance Lynn, sorry, Wade Miley, sorry.
Miley,
Um,
okay, yeah.
yeah, sorry. And as a Cubs fan who had Miley for a season, he spent a lot of time on the IL.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, the Reds and Pirates have improved. Have they improved enough? In my view, no. The Brewers, I think, are a lot weaker this year. It, it will come down to, I think we've probably got the best rotation in the NL Central,
Yeah.
and we've also um, improved our bullpen this year with the likes of Hector Neris that we've signed on a one-year
Yeah.
deal as well. Offensively, we're quite strong. I think we'll be the team to beat, but I don't think it's going to be, you know, a massive gulf. I think it will be us, and then I think yourselves will be second, and then probably Brewers third, Reds, Pirates.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, like I say, it's an open-ending question, really. And now, like Mark said, how long's a piece of string? But you can only hope, can't you, really? Um, Guys, it's been great chatting with you. Mark, just to keep you updated, I mentioned it before. We've got another episode hopefully to do next week. Young Sydney out in the States. She lives in Arizona. She's going to 9 games, is it?
9 spring training days in 7 days, I think she's doing, or something like that. So
Yeah, she's
Incredible,
whacking it in. So
incredible.
she's
down in
going to.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, so I've told her we need to see her on television at some point. So whether or not she'd do that, but I'm hoping that she would join us and sort of like give us a bit of a flavour and experience of basically spring training. Mike, have you done any spring training games at all?
I haven't, so I went to Chicago. Well, as in I've watched them, but obviously not live. So I went to Chicago in 2022. We did 3 games against the Brewers. Um, so at Wrigley Field. But I've never. It would be good. I'd either like to do a spring training game, or I'd like to do a triple A or a double A game.
Yeah,
Um, one of our affiliates down in oh, I think it's bottom A, or is it higher? I can't remember off the top of my head. Is down in Myrtle Beach, which would be very nice to kind of watch a baseball game in the sun.
Yeah.
Because as you guys know from being where we are in the NL Central, it can get quite cold in the first couple of months of the actual season. So yeah, no, I've not done any spring training. I've only kind of watched it, kind of through the TV.
marvelous. Yeah, thanks. Look, I want to say thanks. We're running out of time slightly. Mark, yet again, a pleasure. Mike, really honoured that you come on here, mate, because I know you're setting yourself up a little bit sometimes being a rival fan, but I do appreciate it.
No, appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. I just kind of want to ask for kind of before we go, sorry guys, who do you think is going to win the World Series this year? Because there's been some big acquisitions and trades in the off season.
Yeah.
So who do you think is going to?
If the Dodgers don't win it, then then they're going to be pretty devastated after the amount of money that they've spent. Yeah, the Braves are looking strong again. You know, they've got a good rotation. They've got a good rotation, good set of young hitters as well. So yeah, Braves for me maybe.
You can never write the Astros off, can you? Sometimes they're just they've got a few new challenges, maybe. But I'm watching the Phillies here at the moment over the top of the computer. They'll always be there or thereabouts. It's is it going to be the same old, same old?
Yeah, I mean, Yankees obviously signed Soto, so now they've got Judge, Soto, Stanton,
Yeah.
Gleyber Torres, ridiculous amount of
I
Gerrit
know.
Cole on the mound, and obviously the Rangers, you can't write them off, defending
No,
champions.
no, no.
Yeah, I know, I
So
know.
So put
So
your
who do
neck
you
on the
think?
line. Who are you going to go for then?
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, you said all the names. You haven't actually said anything.
I'm I'm gonna go for it. Has to be the Dodgers with Yamamoto, with Otani, with Glasnow. Like you said, Mark, they have to win
You
in this
have to.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I
100%.
think it's
Yeah.
gonna be a Dodgers.
Okay, well, we can watch this back in, I don't know, end of the season, and then we can laugh and when someone like the Brewers go on to win it.
Don't say that. Don't say that, Dave. Come on.
All right, guys. This is Big Dave representing the UK Cardinals with Mark. Thanks again for watching, and Michael, really appreciate you coming on, mate. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Dave. Cheers, Mike.